Three Mikes Nation. We are back here for another season of Three Mikes Sports Talk. This year we're revamped, focusing mainly on college sports throughout the year. I'm alongside Aiden Power and Patrick Stevenson, and as always, I'm Andrew Koziks. Great week we had in college football. We had week one get underway. Aiden, what games really stuck out to you?
There were a lot of good games. I'd love to start with the game that we had last night. We had the defending champs, Ohio State, on the road taking on Virginia Tech, which, as we all know, is a team that gave them a lot of trouble last year. I don't know what Patrick just said. One of the biggest offseason storylines this year was who's going to get the start at quarterback for Ohio State. I said all along I think it's going to be Cardale Jones. I think he brings too much to the table. But I know a lot of people were surprised last night that Urban Meyer didn't go with J.T. Barrett, who was obviously a Heisman contender. Just a lot of question marks surrounding the Ohio State team, but boy, did they play pretty well.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either with Ohio State's quarterback decision. If it was me, I probably would have gone with J.T. Barrett, but you can't argue with the job Cardale Jones did. I think J.T. Barrett still might be a better choice in the long run. Cardale Jones looked inconsistent at times through the game. It was a good win for the champs. They look ready to defend their title.
So, Patrick, come bowl season, would you say that Cardale Jones will still be starting quarterback at Ohio State?
I don't think he'll do anything to deserve getting benched, so I think he will continue to be the starter. I think we could see J.T. Barrett at times during the games, but I don't think he'll get a start.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see a combination of both of those guys throughout the year. I say Ohio State played well, but really I don't think they played anywhere near their potential last night. This is a game, for the first half, Virginia Tech played really well with them. If it wasn't for the injury to Virginia Tech's quarterback,
Michael
Brewer, who obviously broke his collarbone early in the third quarter, I think could have had a different outcome last night. So I think, once Ohio State gets back some of those guys that were suspended, obviously Joey Bosa, a huge loss for them last night. I think we might see them, sort of pick the play up as the year goes on, but that won't be too much of a surprise.
How about Braxton Miller? He put a huge game for Ohio State, both rushing and receiving. It's great to see him make the transition to a receiver.
Yeah, obviously a tremendous athlete. There's a reason he's the two-time Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. Just shows the versatility that he brings to the Ohio State offense. It's great to see Braxton Miller back on the field and healthy once again.
All right, so let's move over to our preseason number 2. The TCU Horned Frogs, they were in Minnesota to take on the Golden Gophers. And this game was a lot closer than many of us would have suspected. Patrick, what did you see in that game?
I did not watch the game. Aiden, what did you see?
There we go. To be completely honest, I wasn't impressed with TCU. They're on the road against Minnesota, a team who I'm not really too big a fan of. I was really unimpressed with the play of Trayvon Boykin. A lot of hype surrounding that TCU team going into it. And frankly, if Minnesota had any sort of offense, I think we see the number 2 team in the country losing in week 1.
Yeah, and if we go back to last year, Minnesota gave TCU some trouble last year. I think that was one of their closest games last year. So it could just be a Minnesota problem for TCU. We'll see in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a game you want to talk about, that University of Texas visiting Notre Dame in South Bend there. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, you know what? Notre Dame's my pick this year to win the national championship. And you can't really argue with how well they played in week 1. Offense looks smooth. Malik Zaire, his first real start in college football. He looked like a seasoned veteran. On the outside, Will Fuller picked up where he left off last year. Obviously, a guy who scored, I think, 15 touchdowns last year. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Notre Dame was impressive as well. That's really what I think the strength of this team is going to be. They're returning 11 of their 12 starters on defense, and 10 of their 11 starters on defense. And that 11th guy is All-American Kavari Russell, the cornerback who missed last year because he was suspended. I think one of the key to the Notre Dame defense is right up front. Sheldon Day passed up on the NFL draft to come back for his senior season. And, of course, Jalen Smith, the linebacker, one of the top linebackers in the country. He's really the anchor of that Notre Dame defense. He flies around. He makes plays. And we saw him really, really stifle the Texas offense that Charlie Strong's been working hard on all offseason.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame did exactly what everyone expected them to do, and we are just curious to see how Texas would perform in the second year under Charlie Strong, and obviously it wasn't much better than last year. Quarterback issues is the main issue for Texas. Tyrone Swoops had a pretty terrible completion percentage, about 30%, and yeah, just a poor game, especially from Texas's offense.
Yeah, Texas, I thought, looked terrible on both sides of the ball. As you guys both touched on, they just lacked the leadership both at the head coaching position and their quarterback, Tyrone Swoops. Only were able to muster up, 163 yards of offense, and that's compared to Notre Dame's 527 total yards. There's just no competition there.
Yeah, I think the real question coming out of this game is how much was the result just that Notre Dame's that good, or is Texas that bad? And
combination of both, probably.
I agree with Patrick. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, Texas is simply not a good football team. I think they're a few years away from getting back to their tradition. Yeah.
All right, well, let's stick in the Big 12 here. We had the Baylor Bears visiting Dallas to take on the SMU Mustangs. And what did you see in this game?
Everyone knows I love this Baylor offense. Offensive coordinator Kendall Briles back at it again, picking up where he left off last year in the Cotton Bowl. I gotta say I was really, really impressed by the play of Seth Russell. That was really the question mark in this Baylor offense in the offseason. Was he going to be able to step up in the absence of Bryce Petty? And I also think there's a lot about this freshman Jared Stidham. We saw him hop in there and throw a touchdown on his first pass.
Yeah.
Impressed with the play of Shock Linwood and one of my favorite receivers in the country, KD Cannon. Just so much speed on the outside for Baylor. Baylor's got one of the best receiving corps in the country, if you ask me. So much speed on the outside, so much versatility. Really going to be a difficult offense for any defensive coordinator to try and deal with this season.
Yeah, the first half I was a bit worried for Baylor there. SMU went 1-11 last year, I believe, kept it pretty close, but obviously Baylor's offense and defense came to play in that second half and got a big win.
Yeah, the Mustangs were just about 2 yards away from having a tie game going into halftime there. I know a bunch of Baylor fans were definitely a little bit nervous going into the second half, but then the offense really showed up to play, and we saw that high-flying, high-power offense that we're so used to seeing from these Bears.
Yeah, there's really no question that Baylor's offense is going to be successful, but what it's going to come down to is their defense going to be able to stop some of these high-powered offenses that they're going to see in the Big 12. Giving up 21 points to SMU is not phenomenal, and you're going to wonder how they play, when TCU comes to town. That's really the big game for them.
Yeah, some key suspensions on that Bears defense, though. We saw phenom Sean Oakman out after violating team rules, I believe. But they'll be back in a later part of the season. I think that'll be a better time to truly evaluate this Baylor defense. All right, so let's move into what was arguably the game of the week. We saw Wisconsin visit Alabama. Well, the game was actually in Texas, but Alabama served as the home team. We saw the Crimson Tide walk away with a 35-17 victory. Aiden, what did you see there?
I wasn't overly impressed with Alabama. I think just about everyone expected them to win this game. There were some questions at the quarterback position, but I thought Jake Coker came in, obviously the Florida State transfer from 2 years ago. I thought he played pretty well. In all signs, I was really impressed with the play of Derrick Henry. Everything points to him being the next great running back down in Tuscaloosa. Just a phenomenal back, a lot of strength, so much explosiveness. Really impressed with his play.
Wisconsin actually impressed me at times. Joel Stave, after having a poor season last year, recovering from the yips, he's now back. He had a good game. And Alabama did exactly what they're supposed to do. They dominated the ground, both on offense and defense. The rushing yards were 238 to 40 for Alabama. So it's classic Alabama football.
This is just one of those games where you know what you're going to get coming in, and that's exactly what we got. I don't think many people would have put their money on the Badgers going into this game. That Alabama team is just so strong all around. They're going to be tough to beat this year.
Yeah, they definitely are, but ultimately I don't see Alabama going too far. I think the loss of Amari Cooper is really going to hurt them. TJ Yeldon's a big loss too, but Derrick Henry should be good at the running back position. But I don't see this Alabama team going too far.
Patrick, I know you're going to want to talk about it. How about that USC pummeling of Arkansas State, the Red Wolves, I believe.
Oh yeah, great game. There's not much to talk about really. Everything went the way you'd expect it to. From USC's, if one thing USC needs to work on is that pass protection. Cody Kessler was sacked, I believe, 6 times from Arkansas State, which is not a good number from an offensive line that was supposed to be one of the best in the country this year. And the rushing game, apart from a few huge plays that were made by the running backs, really the offensive line didn't make too many holes. So the passing game's looking good, the defense looks good, but for USC, that offensive line needs some work.
Yeah, like Patrick, really impressed with the play on defense by USC. Obviously, wouldn't expect them to give up too much to Arkansas State, but I was surprisingly impressed by what they brought to the table.
I'd argue that 401 yards of offense by the Arkansas State Red Wolves is nothing to sneeze at. I'd find that a little bit concerning if I was a USC fan right now.
Yeah, well, it was over 400 yards to just 6 points from Arkansas State. USC's defense did this too last year, where it was a bend but don't break defense, play a lot of zone coverage, so they might give up a few plays to let the other team get to midfield, but they're rarely allowed touchdowns.
Patrick, did anybody from that receiving corps stand out to you?
Well, from USC, Juju Smith-Schuster is coming back. He's changed his name legally, and he had a huge game. And, yeah, 89 yards receiving. Most of it was on one play, but he's going to have a big year this year.
All right, so Aiden wants to stick in California here. He's been begging me to talk about these UCLA Bruins who took on the Virginia Cavaliers in Pasadena, California. Aiden.
Hey, I think we have to talk about the true freshman quarterback for UCLA, Josh Rosen. One of the biggest, one of the biggest performances from a freshman we've seen in the last couple of years. The true freshman threw for 351 yards, 3 touchdowns against a pretty decent Virginia team. A strong ACC team. Really impressed with the play of Josh Rosen. What do you think about that, Patrick?
Josh Rosen had an incredible game from a freshman. I think that it was the most passing yards ever by a UCLA freshman. And there's another freshman for UCLA that stood out, Soso Jamabo, the running back, led UCLA in rushing yards, averaged almost 9 yards a carry. So UCLA's got a good young core over there.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing the results of these past couple of recruiting classes for UCLA. They've been up at the top the past couple of years, and there's a lot of young talent out there.
Yep.
Well, we gotta move down to College Station here, more specifically, we're talking Houston, Texas, where the Arizona State Sun Devils visited the Aggies of Texas A&M. And what did you think of that upset?
That was a really fun game to watch. I think what we're seeing here from an Arizona State, arguably one of the top teams in the Pac-12, losing this opening game. I really think this is going to be a down year for the Pac-12, but I'll try and just start talk about this game. This is a Texas A&M team that struggled down the stretch of last year. We saw them in week 1 use a little bit of both their quarterbacks, Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray. Sort of very impressed with the poise of Kyle Allen, although he threw I think just one interception. I was impressed with his poise. Kyler Murray, another true freshman quarterback, so impressive with the quickness and speed that he showed, just continually getting around the edge of that Arizona State defense. Although in passing the ball, he wasn't that sharp in his reads nor in his accuracy. So that's something that we're going to see. I'm not quite sure who I would favor to give the job to after week 1. I'd be interested to get Patrick's thoughts on that.
I think Kyle Allen's definitely did enough to show that he's the starter. And I think there's a problem with Arizona State's pass defense. I mean, when they're going up against Christian Kirk, the young receiver, I believe is a freshman for Texas A&M, he was getting separation simply way too easily. Sure, he's a great player, but that shouldn't be. Seemed way too easy for him. Arizona State's corners just didn't do a good job.
Yeah, I love the play of Christian Kirk, that receiver for A&M. I believe he's a true freshman. Just everyone sees why he's one of the most electric players in college football this year. I think him and last year's and the sophomore now, Speedy Noyle, is one of the best 1-2 tandems on the outside in college football. A lot of speed, and I think if they can get a quarterback that can get them the ball, Texas A&M could be a really dangerous offense.
They got a quarterback coming in a couple years, and Tate Martell, big commitment to pick up for Arizona State or Texas A&M. Sorry, class of 2017.
All right. Well, going into these first set of rankings this season, who do you think we're going to see move up the rankings the most?
I think Texas A&M, a team we just talked about, knocking off number 15, Arizona State. I also really love the play of Georgia Tech. I know they weren't playing a phenomenal opponent in week 1, but everyone knows I love that triple option they run, the play of Justin Thomas. They scored 66 points. I love Georgia Tech. I think that they'll move up. I also love Notre Dame. I think that just a blowout over Texas will move them up in the rankings. I see TCU falling a little bit. And I probably see Oregon falling a little bit too. I'd love to talk about that game. Vernon Adams taking on his old team in Eastern Washington. I'll have to check the score again, but I think Oregon gave up
61-42.
Yeah, I think 42 points is way too many points for Oregon to give up to Eastern Washington, an FCS team at home in week 1. I think there's going to be some concerns surrounding that Oregon defense all year long.
Yeah, Eastern Washington has been a team that's been able to pull major upsets over some FBS competition in the past couple of years, and they wanted one against Oregon, but Oregon was the better team. Obviously, Vernon Adams, a little bit of chippy game going against his former school. He got hit with a cheap shot. We'll see how he performs the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I think this matchup next week, Oregon heading out to Michigan to play the Spartans. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, let's talk about that game a little bit. And what are you looking for from that game?
I really want to see. For being honest, I didn't get a chance to watch too much of that Oregon Eastern Washington team. I'm interested to see how much Vernon Adams is going to be able to command that famous Oregon offense against a more quality opponent. Michigan State's got a phenomenal defense, and we're going to see if he can put up some of those big numbers that he puts up against the weaker competition, if that'll be able to come with them.
Yeah, and we'll see how Oregon's defense does against Connor Cook and that Michigan State offense. Obviously, it's a lesser story compared to Michigan State's defense versus Oregon's offense, but there'll be good matchups all around in this game.
Yeah, we can't forget that Oregon put up over 700 yards of offense against Eastern Washington this past week. True defense, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. This will definitely be a good test for both teams, and come bowl season, this game could have some serious implications. Are there any other games that you two are looking forward to coming next week?
I don't know. Well, last week there's the BYU-Nebraska. That was the best game of the week. It has with the BYU Hail Mary from backup quarterback Nick Mangum after Taysom Hill went out with the injury. Just a huge game for BYU to win. Get some confidence that they can win games without their starting quarterback.
Yeah, that was a big win on the road up in Lincoln for the Cougars. I think it's still you can't underestimate how big of a loss that's going to be for BYU losing their quarterback for what seems to be the remainder of the season. That true freshman came in. He played well in the second half, but there's a huge difference between playing well in a half and being able to lead a team for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, well, I think his performance will give the rest of the team confidence that they can win with their backup quarterback.
Aiden, do you want to touch on that Notre Dame-Virginia game that we have coming up this Saturday, I believe?
Yeah, I think that'll be a little bit more of a test for the Irish, but I don't see them having too many problems. Like I said, that offense, I was really impressed with the play of Malik Zaire. I'm not sure how many passing yards he had, but he was chucking the ball around. I think Notre Dame's core of receivers is one of the strongest in the country. You got to love Will Fuller on the outside. Got explosive speed. Also, a friend of the show, Corey Robinson, the big target, Chris Brown as well. Also the slot receiver, Amir Carlisle, a lot of speed. I think this is a Notre Dame offense that's going to be lethal throughout the year, and I expect their defense to have no problem with Virginia.
And Virginia's defense did pretty badly against UCLA. I don't expect them to turn it around against Notre Dame. I think Virginia's offense will be able to get a lot more than Texas got going, but I think Notre Dame wins 2-possession game.
All right, Patrick, we got this LSU Mississippi State matchup coming next Saturday. Any thoughts on that game?
Well, was LSU the game was opening? Yeah, LSU's opening game was canceled, so we haven't seen the Tigers yet. Mississippi State won their opening game. I forgot who that was against. But
Southern Miss, 34-16.
yeah, that's not a huge win for Mississippi State. So it's hard to see what's going to come here from an LSU team we haven't seen play yet. It's going to be tough for them to open the season versus a conference opponent, and it's a worthy opponent in Mississippi State. I didn't buy the hype for Mississippi State last year. I'm not sure if I'll buy it again this year. So I think LSU will be a better team. We'll see how they perform in their opening game, though.
Yeah, you know what? This Mississippi State team is one of the most intriguing teams to watch in my mind. It's a team that was number one in the country for, I think, 5 weeks last year. Dak Prescott, a lot of people were talking about him as a possible Heisman Trophy winner. And then all of a sudden you don't hear anything about them this offseason. And I think a big part of that is that, Dak lost a lot of the weapons that he had around him. So a lot of people don't expect their offense to be quite as explosive. Yeah. Continue where they left off last year.
Yeah, this is a very probable upset, if you'd even consider an upset. We have LSU playing their first game of the season, and it is in Starkville, home to this Mississippi State team. I definitely see Mississippi State walking out of here with the win.
Yeah, and especially this LSU team that doesn't really have any sort of quarterback play. We all saw them in the Music City Bowl last year. There's a lot of questions surrounding that team. I think this is a team that's primed for an upset.
So should we call this as one of our quick pick games?
Sure.
All right, LSU, Mississippi State. Patrick, who you got?
I'll go with LSU. I think Coach Miles will have them ready to play their opening game. Tigers.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going with Mississippi State. I think Leonard Fournette's probably going to have a good game. Obviously, the Heisman Trophy favorite. But I don't see LSU being able to win this one in Starkville.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with Mississippi State here. I think that they're already prepared for this game, having already played one, and it's at home. So I'm going to go with Mississippi State. All right, let's quick pick that Oregon-Michigan State game that we just talked about. Patrick, who you got there?
I'll take Oregon. Oregon had a pretty good win against Michigan State last year. They handled them pretty easily. They're on the road this year. I think Oregon's offense is going to come to play. I'll take Oregon.
Yeah, you know what? I sort of hinted at it earlier. I think it's going to be a bit of a down year for the Pac-12, and I think Oregon's not going to be able to win on the road this year. I think that this Michigan State defense is too good. I think the Michigan State offense going against an Oregon defense that gave up 40 points to Eastern Washington. I like Michigan State, both sides of the ball. I got the Spartans.
All right, I'm going to go with the back factory myself. Spartans all the way here. All right, our third and final game here. Oklahoma visits Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Volunteers. Patrick, who you got?
Can you come back to me on this one?
All right, Aiden, who you got there?
You know what? I love the Volunteers at home. Not too much. I don't see too much talent on this Oklahoma team, if we're being completely honest. I think it's a team towards the bottom of the Big 12 this year. And I like Tennessee at home.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this Volunteers team. I was not too impressed with their week one victory. But I'm gonna go with the boys from Norman and take the Sooners in this one. It'll be a close game, but I definitely think Oklahoma is gonna walk away with the victory.
Yeah, I'll go with Oklahoma on this one too. They had a pretty good win. Tennessee, I've never been too confident about Tennessee winning, so I'll take Oklahoma.
All right, well, that's all we got for today. On behalf of the crew here at Three Mics, thank you, and remember to follow us all forms of social media at Three Mics Sports. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay up, Three Mics Nation.